This is Money Mind with Andrea Heng and Stanley Leong.
Hello, it's Stanley Leong and Tiffany Ang with you today on CNA 938. Thank you for joining us on Money Mind. Now, we are just 16 days into the brand new year. Are you optimistic that the rest of 2023 will turn out to be better than last year? Well, 2022 was a very bad year for the stock markets as well as the tech sector. On Wall Street, the Nasdaq plunged more than 30% last year. The tech sector, well, it saw massive layoffs. I'm sure you heard about them, with Facebook owner Meta cutting 11,000 jobs or 13% of its workforce.
And then, of course, we also had the Russian-Ukraine war, which led to rising food and energy prices globally. And to tackle inflation, central banks hiked interest rates aggressively, with homeowners having to deal with higher mortgage payments every month. Well, market research and consulting firm Ipsos asked 24,000 citizens of 36 countries to reflect on the year gone by and the year ahead. The survey shows that Singaporeans in general fear inflation and prices rising faster than their salaries. Well, it seems inflation has surpassed COVID-19 as the topmost concern on Singaporeans' minds.
Aha, so my guess was correct. Let's dive deeper into what else the survey reveals by speaking now with Melanie Ng, who is Director of Market Strategy and Understanding at Ipsos here in Singapore. Melanie, Happy New Year. Good to have you with us.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for joining us here on CNA 938. So, inflation seems to be the most pressing concern for many Singaporeans. We're interested to know how these findings compare with, say, other countries, the global average.
The short answer to whether Singapore respondents are a little bit more optimistic than our global respondents, the answer is a yes. We are marginally more optimistic. But this optimism has certainly dropped over the year. Perhaps allow me to maybe paint the picture at the global level first. We have 46% on average globally who believe that the economy will be stronger next year. And this is by far the lowest we have had received for the same question surveyed in the last 10 years. And even lower than 2020, one of the worst years in history due to COVID, where we saw a result of 54% then. Now, so clearly, there is much more pessimism about the global economy than before. We see people in Europe being most pessimistic. For example, Belgium scoring as low as 27%. In APAC, China, post a prolonged lockdown, optimism is pretty high at 78%, followed by India, Indonesia, and the lowest being Japan at 30%. So where does Singapore stand? We are ranked somewhere in the middle among APAC markets. In fact, in Singapore, there is split optimism, meaning about half of the Singaporeans are saying that the global economy will be stronger in 2023. The other half felt otherwise. But just like the global result, this is a drop of 16% from last year, which is fairly significant.
Yeah, and we thought we were going to get better, but of course now it's really quite a murky outlook, and it looks like you say, it's a mixed bag of how people are feeling about the brand new year.
Yeah, and in retrospect, on average across all the 36 countries that you surveyed, over half of your respondents described last year, 2022, as a bad year for themselves. Are they expecting 2023 to be a lot better?
So earlier we spoke about the outlook of the global economy, but in the survey, we also asked people how they feel about their personal situations. So on average across 36 countries, 56 described 2022 as a bad year for themselves and their family. And that's not too different from 2021, where we had 58%. Now, in terms of the outlook for 2023, while 2/3 are still optimistic that it will be a better year, but this level of optimism in Singapore has dropped by a good 12% from last year. So I definitely feel the triggers to the drop in confidence and overall outlook extends beyond just the economic situation. It will encompass things like climate-related disaster, geopolitics, energy crisis, and even the use of nuclear weapons, all of which will contribute in one way or another to a significantly more pessimistic view of what 2023 will bring.
Melanie, did the Ipsos study actually, drill down to what were the factors that caused people to feel less positive about 2023, or less optimistic about this brand new year.
Yeah.
Did we go down to
Yes.
the details?
Yes, we definitely did. So if we start to look at what Singaporeans learned about in particular, 9 in 10 believe that prices in Singapore are likely to increase faster than people's income. 60% also say that it's quite likely that major stock markets around the world will crash in 2023. There are also lots of Singaporeans expecting higher interest rate, higher unemployment rates as well. And in particular, for rising prices, inflation and interest rate, Singaporeans' pessimism is significantly higher than the global average. Probably not surprising given that we are one of the most expensive cities to live in.
Any surprise findings that came out of the study as well that took you by surprise yourself?
Personally, no. I'm kind of expecting that that the level of optimism will drop this year because inflation is really hot right now. And as I've mentioned, apart from inflation, there were a lot of other things that will personally impact on the consumers. Like a lot of us are paying higher interest rate already. We're buying less, for the same income that we are picking up. Probably not changed too much from last year.
Right.
And turning to climate change and the environment, you mentioned this earlier. Why are your Singaporean respondents expecting slower action from countries when it comes to tackling the global climate change?
Okay. I think Singaporeans, along with most people around the world, we are witnessing the effects of climate change. Okay. In the survey, we saw 7 in 10 respondents say that they're likely to be more extreme weather events in the country this year. And then a good 60% also mentioned that this year is likely to be the hottest year on record. But fortunately, compared to many other countries, Singaporeans are being spared from critical disaster. And therefore naturally sees the need for a super fast action, to be kind of a lower priority than burning inflationary issues that has direct impact on the Singapore economy. Now, having said that, in many other research that we have conducted, we know that Singaporeans are certainly not short of awareness and appreciation of action that's required to address climate change. We're a little bit late, perhaps, and a little bit slow on carbon reduction, but we certainly have made dramatic progress compared to 10 years ago. So Singaporeans are definitely ready to see businesses and government do more, despite this being a long-drawn process.
Goes to show we are feeling more, higher prices, the pain of high prices and the pain of rising temperatures.
The heat.
But we,
Yes.
nonetheless,
The
are not
heat.
going to be totally spared. Yeah, what is burning would be more our pockets at the moment. We are hearing from Melanie Ng, who is Director of Market Strategy and Understanding over at Ipsos, and we are looking at a study that was conducted by them involving quite a number of countries. How many did we say it was? 36 countries. And interviewing residents in those places about their concerns of the past year and also expectations for 2023 as well. Now, still on what had come out of that survey, 46% of Singaporeans believe it will become more normal for businesses in Singapore to implement a 4-day work week in 2023. I don't know actually how many companies have already started doing that, but I know hybrid seems to be quite a popular arrangement for many organizations. So, Melanie, how does this compare to what other major cities are looking in terms of this 4-day work arrangement for 2023?
Sure. Okay. This is a very interesting topic. It is at the moment not yet clear to what degree of changes to work patterns that were enforced by COVID will persist and continue to evolve. But in this survey, we saw 1 in 3 believe that it will become normal for businesses in their country to implement a 4-day work week. For the same, Singapore stands at 46%, which is marginally higher than the UK, US, China, and Australia, and comparable to Southeast Asian markets such as Thailand and Malaysia. This is certainly one question where we saw greatest consistency across markets and regions, meaning they kind of all hover around a similar percentage point. Across the globe, the world of work has obviously seen greatest transformation in the last 3 years, right? We saw phenomenon not seen previously, such as the Great Resignation, or now we have the Great Reshuffle, which means, that changes in people's values and life choices, and those are driving how they search and what they expect of work that fulfills them. And it is also, public knowledge that some European markets have started offering it, and some have piloted a 4-day week program. Even in Asia, though the numbers are still small, there is a growing number of Asian companies starting to test the water on the 4-day week policy. However, the adoption of policy in Asia, where we saw overwork being so common, we feel, it's expected to be a little bit slower. Okay. But nonetheless, that like you've mentioned, working from home has become so acceptable and in some cases very necessary to some people. I personally would not be surprised to see such desirability among the workforce to increase same time next year.
Yeah, but I mean, a 4-day work week, it's really one work day less per week. I don't know if Singapore were to want to keep, at it in terms of our economic performance and growth rates and targets. I think it'll be hard to drop it down to 4 to continue achieving the kind of growth that we have been.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, that is the surprise finding of this survey, that so many Singaporeans, 2 in 3 Singaporeans, believe it will become normal for businesses to transit to a 4-day working week. To me, that's surprising.
Yeah, very surprising.
Well, but
maybe they are entrepreneurs who are going to implement 4-day work weeks in their organization. What do you think, Melanie?
I think there's a difference between what people hope and desire versus what is actually being practiced. There are experts who have shared the challenges that will come with a 4-day work week. For example, the management of workload, attendance, and things like that. So I think there's certainly a lot more to dive into, and definitely an area that needs to be piloted. I personally don't think it will fit all industry, perhaps some selected ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, turning to the tech industry, I want to talk a little bit more about that. It was a very turbulent year for the sector. What are your global respondents' expectation for tech businesses, tech companies this new year?
Okay, it's always interesting and exciting to talk about technology. Now, this is where we consider a number of breakthroughs, where perhaps a lot of scientific research has been going on for years. Some topics have also sparked diverse conversation in terms of how close this can become a reality for us. Okay, now, I will maybe start by giving a few examples, things that is likely to reach us quicker than the rest. Perhaps it's easier for our listeners to relate to. The first one is metaverse. Okay, you have probably already heard of the phrase metaverse. Really, it's about technologies that enable digital duplication or improvement of tasks that are often performed in a physical world. In case you're still confused, in layman term, is try to imagine a virtual world where millions of people live, they work, they shop, they interact, they learn from each other, all from the comfort of their couches in the physical world. Now, among those who are aware of metaverse, I think majority believe that in the next 10 years, the development of metaverse applications using extended reality will significantly change the way people live. Okay? The possibilities that metaverse can bring is just far too alluring to ignore it. So it will come, it will arrive with a big bang. So that's one. The second one is about sustainable technology. Okay, so until recently, I think we have all heard, the topic of sustainability is increasingly gaining attention worldwide.
Right.
So while the tech industry is often, obsessed with increasing the potency of new technology, we now need to consider approaching it in a sustainable manner. So, for example, creating environmentally friendly software for managing emission, AI. Using energy efficiency analytics to ensure that we're achieving certain goals around sustainable technology. Okay, so that's another area. The third area is around investment in robotics and automation. Now, this concept is probably not new to us, right? We know robots everywhere. But the discussion is more about whether robots are becoming more like cobots, as in COBOTS. So cobots are essentially robots that work alongside people. The question here is whether people believe that cobots will be our new co-workers. So imagine a smart cobot keeping the production line up and running while employees are working remotely, So it's that kind of imagination.
Yeah, and I think that's also very, very, sector specific or job function specific as well. Doesn't mean that it'll be, well adopted by across all different organizations and sectors and industries. Melanie, there's just so much more to dive into. We only wish we had more time to speak with you, but Melanie, we have to leave it as that. And but if you ask me, I prefer Tiffany sitting across from me than a cobot to do this show with. So let's yes, no, please don't speak to me that way. So let's wait and see how 2023 will pan out, and we hope those fears are unfounded. But we just hope for the best as well. We are such a resilient species here. Melanie, thank you so much for joining us. Melanie
Thank
Ng
you.
is Director of Market Strategy and Understanding at Ipsos here in Singapore.